When you glimpse a group of soldiers, what's the very first thing that catches your eye? Chances are it's their uniform.
Yeah, absolutely.
And while it might just seem like, clothing, that uniform is actually telling a profound story, a deeper story about a nation's military.
It really is. It says so much about where they come from, their specific jobs, even the kind of environment they operate in.
Exactly. Like, is it desert, jungle, urban snow? You can often tell just by looking.
It's true. And what looks like just clothing is, well, it's a massive strategic investment and a powerful statement.
You mentioned investment. I saw a figure. The U.S. Army back in 2016 spent something like over $4 billion on uniforms and gear.
That's right, $4 billion. And that number tells you it's not just about function, right? It's this critical recognition that how a soldier looks matters a lot, both on the battlefield and off it.
Yeah.
It symbolizes something much bigger.
Right, and that's exactly why we wanted to do this deep dive today. We're looking into the surprisingly complex world of military uniforms.
Yeah, because as you'll see, they are definitely not the same everywhere.
Not at all. And we're going to explore how every detail, the fabric, the pattern, even where a button goes, it's all chosen for a pretty significant reason.
Mm-hmm.
Our mission today is really to unpack how these uniforms reflect military identity, culture, offering, hopefully, some valuable insights for you, whether you're in defense decision-making or maybe you're a collector or just an enthusiast.
Definitely. There's a lot there.
So let's get into it. Why are military uniforms so vital? It goes way beyond just making everyone look the same, doesn't it?
Oh, absolutely. They serve multiple really fundamental functions, way beyond just appearance. At their heart, uniforms are built to support soldiers in some of the toughest environments you can imagine.
Right, whether that's actual combat or just intense training.
Exactly.
So, okay, practical needs. What are some of those core things a uniform has to do?
Well, number one is probably concealment and protection. Think about the U.S. Army's OCP. That's the operational camouflage pattern.
Right, the sort of pixelated-looking one you see a lot now.
That's the one.
Well.
And it's not just a random pattern. It's meticulously designed to help soldiers hide effectively in both forests and, importantly, urban settings, too.
Okay, so it's versatile.
Very. And beyond the pattern itself, the fabric matters. It's made to resist tearing, obviously, but also, crucially, to reduce visibility under infrared light.
Ah, so for night operations against thermal imaging and stuff like that?
Precisely. That's a huge factor in modern warfare.
That level of detail is fascinating. But uniforms also have to identify people, not just hide them. How do they manage that, keeping order within the ranks?
Yeah, that's the other side of the coin. They're absolutely essential for identification. You need to know instantly who someone is, what unit they belong to, their country.
And that's not just for parades, right? That's critical in the field.
Critical. It maintains order, chain of command, structure, especially when things get chaotic. Take the Nigerian military, for example.
Yeah.
They use specific patches, plus color-coded rank insignia. So you can instantly tell officers from other personnel. That visual hierarchy is vital for command, for quick communication, especially during, say, emergency responses.
Right, you need clarity immediately. Now, something maybe less obvious is how uniforms carry history, tradition, national values. How does that work?
Oh, they're powerful symbols, deeply tied to a nation's heritage. Consider Colombia. If you see them on national holidays like Independence Day or at official events in Bogota,
Okay.
you'll see their ceremonial military uniforms. They're stunning. The Presidential Guard Battalion, for instance, they wear these striking dark blue dress uniforms, gold buttons, white belts, red details.
Wow.
And none of that is accidental. Each element might reference a specific historical event or national colors or the founding ideals of their armed forces. It instills pride in the wearer and respect from onlookers.
And then there's the psychological factor. We talk about hardware, tanks, planes. But the uniform itself, does it have a psychological impact on, say, an adversary?
It absolutely does. It's a core part of projecting strength. The sight of a well-equipped, disciplined, uniformed force can seriously impact enemy morale before a shot is even fired.
Huh. Like intimidation through appearance.
Exactly. It screams strength, unity, discipline, readiness. There are stories, historical accounts of how Napoleon's Imperial Guard, with those big bearskin hats and their formations, just the sight of them could demoralize opponents. That visual statement says, we are organized, we are formidable, we are ready.
Okay, that makes sense. So moving from the why to the what, how do militaries actually categorize uniforms? Are there standard types we see everywhere?
Generally, yes. Most armed forces use three basic categories, each for a different situation. First, you've got your combat uniforms.
Okay, the ones for fighting.
Right. Designed for field ops. Camouflage patterns are key here. Engineered to help soldiers blend into whatever environment they're in, desert, forest, urban, you name it.
Then there are service uniforms. That sounds more like everyday wear.
Exactly. Service uniforms are the standard gear for personnel working in offices, or when traveling, maybe public-facing roles where you need to look professional but aren't expecting combat. They balance that professional look with practicality.
Okay. And the last one, the really striking ones, are the dress uniforms.
Absolutely. Dress uniforms are for your parades, official ceremonies, state functions, formal events. They often bring in traditional elements, lots of detail, and they're where you display medals, ribbons, unit insignia, really highlighting history and national pride.
Can you give an example?
Sure, France is a good one. Their soldiers wear the CCE pattern that Central Europe camouflage in the field.
Right.
But for something like Bastille Day, they switch to these impressive dress uniforms, medals out, ribbons, sometimes traditional gear unique to their unit, like the French Foreign Legion's white kepi hat.
Ah, okay. So combat service dress, that makes sense. And you mentioned camouflage earlier. It's clearly not one size fits all.
Not even close.
Hmm.
Different environments demand totally different patterns. This has led militaries to develop tons of designs.
Because jungle camouflage won't work in the desert.
Exactly. Or in the snow, or a
Yeah.
city. Think about the Turkish military. They actually use different patterns for specific regions and jobs. Their gendarmerie on the west coast uses an agent spot pattern designed just for that coastal terrain.
Wow, that's specific.
Yep. And Russian soldiers often use EMR, or digital flora. It's a digital pattern. It looks kind of blocky, but it's very effective in their forests and mixed terrains. It's all about optimizing for the specific place you'll be fighting.
That really drives home the idea of global adaptation. Let's talk about some of those regions. Africa, for instance. Huge continent, massive range of climates. How do uniforms cope there?
Africa is a perfect example of adapting to extremes. You've got everything from scorching deserts to incredibly humid rainforests. Uniforms have to be tailored.
So, like in Chad,
Uh-huh.
mostly desert, right?
Right. So in Chad, soldiers operate a lot in very dry, sandy areas. Their uniforms are mostly light-colored desert camouflage. That helps reflect heat, obviously, but critically, it helps them blend into that sandy terrain. Concealment is vital.
And what about somewhere like Burkina Faso? More mixed environments, maybe?
Yeah, there you'll often see mixed camouflage tones. And importantly, lightweight fabrics. Mobility and comfort are huge factors in those consistently warm climates. Their gear needs to work for urban patrols and rural missions. Adaptability is key.
Okay. Let's hop over to Europe. The Balkan region, maybe? How do they approach it? Balancing modern needs with perhaps older traditions?
In the Balkans, you see a lot of preference for multi-terrain camouflage. It's practical. Their landscapes often shift quickly between forests, mountains, urban areas.
So one pattern to cover more bases?
Kind of. It reflects integrating modern tactical thinking with the reality of their complex geography, trying to be versatile.
And Asia. Just incredibly diverse. How does that play out in uniforms?
Asia's diversity means uniforms have to adapt like crazy. Countries like Indonesia or Tajikistan, for example, they might use several different camouflage patterns depending on the region or even the branch of service.
So you might see...
You can see urban gray patterns for cities, a deep jungle green for tropical areas, maybe a digital desert pattern for arid zones, all within the same military, potentially. It's highly specialized to the local environment.
In Latin America, what's the feel there?
In Latin America, you often see this blend of really practical combat gear combined with quite strong national symbolism. In Colombia, for instance, you can really see how the uniforms meet immediate operational needs, what soldiers need to do their job, but also carry this deep sense of patriotic value.
So function meets national pride, very visibly.
Very much so. It feels quite intentional in their designs.
We've talked a lot about blending in, but were there ever uniforms designed maybe unintentionally to stand out, or patterns that just seemed weird at first?
Oh, for sure. Hindsight is 20/20, right? If you look back, military history has some fascinating examples. During the American Civil War, for instance, many units wore really bright colors, blues, reds, grays.
Made them pretty easy targets, I'd imagine.
Absolutely. But those choices were all about tradition, unit identity, and just a totally different idea of battlefield visibility back then.
Okay, that's tradition. What about early attempts at modern camo that looked strange?
Well, think about the Canadian CADPAD pattern. That was one of the first digital pixelated camouflages came out in the late 90s.
Right, I remember seeing that. Looked very blocky.
Exactly. Compared to the older, swirlier patterns, it looked kind of weird, unconventional. But then, testing showed it was incredibly effective. Those pixels actually mimicked the natural textures, the dithering you see in nature, better than the old patterns did.
So it broke up the soldier's outline better.
Much better. It was harder for the human eye to register the shape. It was radical then, but it inspired lots of others, like the U.S. Marines MARPAT. Taught us that weird can sometimes be way more effective.
That's a great point about innovation. So those were past experiments. What about the cutting edge now? Where is uniform technology headed?
Yeah, that's where things get really exciting. Today's uniforms are evolving incredibly fast, thanks to new tech. We're seeing things like advanced flame-resistant fabrics becoming more common.
Protection against burns, incendiaries.
Exactly. And also sophisticated temperature-regulating materials. Stuff designed to keep soldiers cooler in the heat, warmer in the cold, keep them focused. But the real leap forward is smart textiles.
Smart textiles. Okay, that sounds futuristic. What does that actually mean?
It means for fabrics with technology woven right in. We're talking microsensors for real-time health monitoring, tracking heart rate, breathing, hydration levels.
Wow. So you could tell if a soldier is overheating or exhausted.
Potentially, yes, which is huge for preventing casualties. And they can also integrate tiny GPS units for precise location tracking. Imagine coordinating maneuvers in a complex city or finding a wounded soldier quickly.
Knowing exactly where everyone is and maybe even their basic condition instantly.
That's the goal, leveraging data for survival, for mission success.
So style and tradition still matter, hugely. But the basic function of the uniform is getting incredibly high-tech. It's this amazing blend of the old and the very, very new.
It really is. The modern uniform is kind of a testament to how far we've pushed technology to equip soldiers not just to fight, but to survive and operate effectively in these unbelievably challenging environments.
So wrapping this up, we've gone from the sheer cost, that billions figure, to the nitty-gritty of patterns in Burkina Faso or Chad, and now into smart fabrics. It's so clear that a uniform is way more than just clothing.
So much more. It's this really complex statement, isn't it? Identity, culture, technology, all woven together.
Yeah, every stitch, every pattern, every color tells the story of purpose, tradition, and constant adaptation.
And understanding that story, that connection, is really valuable. For defense decision makers, it underlines how crucial uniform design is not just for effectiveness, but for projecting identity, building cohesion.
And for collectors.
It adds this whole other layer of meaning, right? Appreciating the history, the culture packed into that garment. And for enthusiasts, hopefully, it just sparks more curiosity about the specialized designs all around us.
It definitely makes you think, if military uniforms reveal so much about a nation, its needs, its identity, what hidden stories could other kinds of specialized clothing tell us? Or even, what we choose to wear every day?
Yeah. What does our uniform say about our society, our values, the environments we navigate?
Something to mull over next time you're getting dressed, perhaps? We really hope you enjoyed this deep dive today.
Yeah, and we hope you keep exploring these kinds of fascinating topics, so stay curious.